It took 32 years, but I finally found my kidnapped son. Li Jingjia spent more than 3 decades searching for her son, Mao Yin, who was kidnapped in 1988 and sold. She had almost given up hope of ever seeing him again. But in May she finally got the call she had been waiting for. At weekends Jingjia and her husband would take their toddler Mao Yin to the zoo, or to one of the many parks in their city, Shen, the capital of Shanxi province in central China. And one of these outings has always remained especially vivid in her memory. He was about 1.5 years old at the time. We took him to the Shen City Zoo. He saw a worm on the ground. He was very curious and pointed to the worm saying, "Mama, worm." And as I carried him out of the zoo, he had the worm in his hand and put it close to my face, Jingjia says. Mao Yin was her only child. China's one-child policy was in full swing, so there was no question of having more. She wanted him to study hard and be successful, so she nicknamed him Jia Jia, meaning great. Jia Jia was a very well-behaved, smart, obedient, and sensible child. He didn't like to cry. He was very lively and adorable. He was the kind of child that everyone liked when they saw him, Jingjia says. She and her husband would drop him off at a kindergarten in the morning and pick him up after work. Every day, after leaving work I played with my child, Jingjia says. I was very happy. Alabama man's death deemed accidental drowning, but the family and community doesn't buy it. Before starting, I would like to say that I went to high school with this man and we come from a very small community. The large majority of people from our community do not buy that his death was accidental. Blake Smith was a 20-year-old aspiring pastor from Alabama. He was a junior at Crown College, a small Bible college in Powell, Tennessee. He was a good person who genuinely cared for and loved people. Smith worked at Wheatman Lawn Care in West Knox County. On February 3, 2018 he finished his work at about 2 p.m. Later that same afternoon Smith posted a picture to Instagram in Admiral Farragut Park in West Knoxville. The next morning Smith's college roommates found Smith's car wrecked into a construction site on a private dirt road. This construction site was about 7 miles from where Smith had been at Admiral Farragut Park. They found his car still running with a cinder block on the gas pedal, damage to the doors and mirrors, and his belongings strewn about outside of the car. Smith's cell phone was still in the car. This is when his roommates contacted the police. There were no details given about how his roommates knew his car was at this construction site. Near Smith's car deputies found a boot, a hat, and Smith's wallet which still contained his cash and debit/credit cards. The next day, February 5, 2018, Smith's body was found in the creek near the construction site. The autopsy ruled that his death was an accidental drowning and the toxicology report showed that he had absolutely no drugs or alcohol in his system. The deputies immediately wrote the case off as an accident, however friends and family believe otherwise. Deputies say they believe Smith wrecked his car and due to a brain bleed he became confused and disoriented and thus drowned. It's hard to be sure when you're close with a case, so I'm curious to see what you all think. Man's remains found in Tennessee identified as missing person from West Virginia by someone who was researching cases as a hobby. The remains of a man that were found in Kingsport, Tennessee, 17 years ago in the Holston River were just identified as a missing person from West Virginia. The Kingsport police detectives received a tip from someone who was researching missing person cases as a hobby that said the remains appeared similar to the description of the man in the missing persons case from Charleston, West Virginia. DNA from the man's body was compared to a family member's to confirm the identity. It's very interesting that someone out there that's like the users in this sub was able to solve the case. Hopefully the man's family will feel some closure from this. We know who killed her, but not her name, who is Sorrento/Lake County Jane Doe, 1991. Jane Doe was found on December 7, 1991 by a hiker on a hiking trail off State Road 46 in Sorrento, Lake County, Florida. She was naked from the waist down and tree branches had been piled atop her. The woman had been raped, stabbed with a glass bottle and strangled. She was dressed in a blue and pink shirt, red sweatshirt, and a sports bra. A unique earring, with gold-colored heart and star beads was found tangled in her hair. As she was only killed about 12 hours earlier, her face was recognizable. In 1997, Joseph A. Rawl Jr. was charged with her murder. Investigation. Investigators, believing Doe could have been an exotic dancer because of her muscular legs, visited clubs in nearby areas, but nobody recognized her. Her police sketch was circulated, and fingerprints were also distributed to 230 cities, without a match. A woman named Sherry Mitchell, who owned a beauty salon in Sorrento believes she cut the woman's hair about 9 months before the murder. Mitchell recalled a woman getting her hair cut in the same style as the doe, as well as wearing the same distinct earrings. She also recalled the woman's beauty, and was able to sketch the woman from memory. Mitchell testified during Rawls' trial, saying she believed Doe was the same woman, though she couldn't be sure. Mitchell also recalled the woman whose hair she cut, mentioning she was possibly from an area east of Sorrento, maybe Port Orange. Additionally, Mitchell's salon was within eyesight of Rawls' place of employment. In 1997, Joseph A. Rawls Jr. was charged with Doe's rape and murder, after DNA connected him to Doe. He was convicted only for sexual battery, as the jury could not find, without a reasonable doubt, that he was also responsible for her murder. However, he is serving a life sentence. He denied knowing the woman's identity. Doe was not Rawls' only victim, though others survived to tell their tales. He had a history of choking and sexually assaulting women, particularly sex workers, often with the false promise of providing them cocaine, and is even known to have held a hacksaw to one woman's throat as he assaulted her. It seems likely he has other murder victims out there as well. 29 years later, the question remains, who is she? Please take a look at her sketch, or her post-mortem photo if you're up to it. It's not graphic, and she is recognizable. You might also take a look at the unique earring. Somebody out there knows who she is and deserves to know what happened to her, and of course, she deserves her name back.